Lloyd, where philosophy matters.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Jack here, and it is a special day. It's a special day because I'm streaming on November 8th, and apparently lots of people think that's really important for their lives, that they go and punch a hole in a card or write their name on a piece of paper, and then they put in a box and they hope that somebody's going to magically grant their wishes of having peace and prosperity, as opposed to having tons of money sent to foreign countries to engage in proxy wars and blow up innocent people and destroy roads in the Middle East and so on and so forth. So we're in a very special day, a very big mass psychosis day. So, hey, what's up, Matt? Good to see you. And we're going to be actually talking about a few things, one of which is this video that's done by Shark3Ozero. And I think I'm pronouncing that right based on the banner he has on his website. He did a little coverage of my comic book series. I thought it'd be fun to talk about it and talk about some of his conceptions and misconceptions about it. And that way, maybe there's some more understanding. I did think it was a really funny video that he did, though. So, but before I do that, make sure if you're not on one of the YouTube channels, make sure that you head on over to the YouTube side, because I can't see comments on the personal pages. So check out youtube.com/Jack Lloyd. I'm still making up for years of not telling people to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. For all these years, I basically just kind of ran with it and just said, whatever, if you subscribe, you subscribe. But now with YouTube's algorithms, it's really hard to reach people. You know what I mean? It's and plus being specifically throttled is also its own kind of pain there. So I have to really tell people to share and come on over to the main channel and get the notifications to come on by. It's a sad, fact of life with what they've done with their specific throttlings. But what are you gonna do? You just gotta adapt, improvise, and of course, overcome. So the person here who I hadn't seen his stuff before, this is not somebody that I was familiar with before, but I was doing just a little bit of random perusing, checking up to see what was, I guess you could say, being covered as far as the coverage of voluntarists and other things going on out there. And I kind of just wanted to, see what was there on YouTube, see what, who was driving in traffic. Cause I noticed there was a bump in things. I was just wondering where it was coming from. And I came across this channel, Shark, and you can see right there, Shark3Ozero. And I'm assuming it's Shark3O because the O has that kind of underscore on both of them. And if it's zero, well, I'm going to guess that that's an O2 in front of the zero. I was trying to find if he ever said the full name. He just called himself Sharky or Shark or Shark Bites, but I never saw the full name. But what are you gonna do? So he had this this video up called "This Libertarian Comic is Laughably Bad," and of course, that comic that he happens to be talking about is Jack v. Lloyd's, aka me, my comic series, Voluntarist. But I thought it was kind of interesting because some of the stuff that he talks about and covers with it is more with the legacy, future versus prototype stuff, and doesn't actually get into the origin series. So it made me be like, oh, okay, maybe I should put this out there so people know that what he says about it's not exactly maybe what he's thinking, what people are thinking. So Brian here says, couldn't tell if he was a hater or a fan, right? Well, by the end of it, he seemed to be vibing with all the different songs you're doing. So I was like, I don't know, I'll take some, vibe to the beats. I'll take that. So, but yeah, obviously the main part of the content was about, trying to poke fun at it. But there are some things to it that I think, by the time we're done looking at it here, maybe there'll be some clarity here. People are like, oh, okay. Maybe this isn't as bad as he's making it out to be. And also, I wanted to go through some of the comments too, because the comments are always hilarious. And I love having the opportunity to, specifically address people's statements, especially if there's misconceptions about libertarian or voluntarist, in this case, theory. So he opens up, mention the comic, as you can see here real quick.
It's the voluntarist comic.
So there you go. It says the libertarian comic is laughably bad. It is the voluntarist comic, though. I mean, yes, it is a libertarian comic in that, small L libertarian, means that you're just libertarian philosophically. You're not necessarily part of the Libertarian Party. A lot of people think, oh, libertarian means you're like voting libertarian because of the big L. but no, it's also the philosophy of liberty. And I do actually even cover that here, as you can see here on my book, The Definitive Guide to Libertarian Voluntarism. So it's two different concepts as I define them here, but an understandable, difference. And of course, if you put voluntarist as his title, he probably wouldn't get as many views, because libertarian's a lot more hot button term. So I can understand that. I can understand it, using that. So he does a little bit of going through, some of my stuff. He's, streaming, so you can see some people on the left-hand side, and he goes through, some of my past videos, and he really goes back deep. I was actually kind of honored. I was like, wow, you really went back far. Because like the video that he shows at first is this interview. And if you look, this video clip here where I'm being interviewed, that you can see here, I'm not playing the audio for right now just to not distract. It was actually from a newscast. So this is from a newscast that's like 12, at this point, like 12 plus years ago. And I was at this Tea Party rally crashing. And then some of the Tea Party people were saying that I was the infiltrator because, the statements I had were much more radical for liberty. I'm sitting there, and on my poster, you can't see it there, but my poster was knocking both Bush and Obama, calling out the false duopoly and showing how they're the same in terms of the war and the spending and debt and so on and so forth. So I thought that was pretty funny. I was just goofing around with the Spider-Man Zentai costume at the time just to get some attention. And as you could see, it did work, because it got me on the local news for it. It pissed off all the Tea Party people, which that for me was, a lot of fun to do. But, I got to actually connect with some people who actually love liberty. So he goes through, and he's perusing my videos and stuff. And one of the things I thought that kind of stuck out to me is kind of funny is he takes a look at my Spider-Man video. So there's this other Spider-Man video. You can see where I'm in the red Spider-Man costume. And he says, I'm going to just pull this up here so you can see, he says,
and Spider-Man is an anarcho-capitalist, which isn't true.
Except that video is called Spider-Man is an arachno-capitalist. So again, Spider-Man, not anarcho-capitalist, arachno-capitalist. So there was a joke there because, obviously arachno spider, it was a parody thing at the time. So he's like, oh no, he's like, he's not an anarcho-capitalist, he's a cop. But it's like that wasn't the point of the video. The video was a parody about, arachnids and making a joke back then. So that was pretty funny. But as he goes through, he does actually, play some of the videos, and some people are actually kind of, kindly responding to it. They're like, actually, yeah, I like some of this stuff, or they liked the, the music and stuff like that. But of course, some people obviously weren't liberty leaning or liberty oriented. So to them, they're like, oh, it's so cringe because you dress up stuff like this. Meanwhile, it's like, what's always funny to me with these things is that people will say, oh, that's so cringe. You have like liberty and superhero stuff like that. Meanwhile, they literally will like shell out all this money for a dude dressed in an American flag called Captain America, or have Superman, be dressed and cloaked in the American flag, or different characters like with their different nationalities, and they're praising their governments and all this other stuff. Or even with mainstream stuff these days, it's all about they're helping out the CIA or the FBI, right? Everything that you see in terms of comic book stuff and entertainment literally revolves around worship of the state and worship of government workers, essentially. And in large part, a lot of times it's also the deep state that's being elevated. And in the modern sense, it's like the SJW woke crowd is like, oh, okay, well, the CIA is good. They just need to get rid of some bad apples. And as long as they're woke and they have a nice diversity quota, then the CIA is great. And that, they can, run things around the world, and that's totally fine. No problem. Right. So, that always got me, when I was doing this and starting this up now, of course, with the ideas over 12 years ago, and then actually launching it about 10 years ago, that people are so acclimated to being propagandized with state stuff. They don't even think about it. It's just like, brainwashed zombie. Oh, okay. The superhero, they put their hand over their hearts to their pledge, and they say, come on, we got to stand for the flag. And, we got to, keep up the strong national federal government. And let's go praise some presidents, in the series. And again, real quick, if you're not familiar with those things, I might just pull up, a couple of those images just to remind people here of that reality. Like, I'm not just, making this up here. Again, we're talking about the history of comic books The comic book history is very clear. I mean, this is not something that is hidden if you actually know your stuff about the nature and history of comic book series. A lot of them have been revolving around the adulation of government and political figures, promoting them, promoting war propaganda, and so on and so forth. And of course, very often from a central planning mindset, a statist mindset. You can pretty much see pretty much anything from through the ages, Kennedy, Reagan, Obama and stuff like that. It's not really something that's mysterious or hidden. It's pretty out there. It's just that so many people are acclimated to it. They don't think twice about it. They're just like, oh, well, that's not cringe because the government put me in a school for, 12 years and they had me pledge for every morning for all those years, 184 days of the year. So they don't think about it. They just go along with it and they think, oh, that's normal. And then if they see something that's outside that, and then it's like, oh my God, I can't handle this. It's cringe. It's like, yeah, except you do the same thing, but you just think it's normal, right? Just like the North Koreans think your American flag's cringe. You see the CCP and you see their red flag and the socialist or the communist hammer and sickle, and they're like, oh, that's horrible. It's like obvious to you that, oh, wow, they're being brainwashed. But, oh, okay, well, when it's your brainwashing, your home team's brainwashing, then it's like, oh, well, that's normal. That's not cringe, right? So it's funny to see. It's funny when you see that and you kind of have to, step out of that for a second to realize just how much programming goes into it. So he later on covers some more of the characters. He goes on to past some of those historical videos and this or that. He goes on to talking about some of the different voluntarist characters on the site. And one thing I wanted to point out, this is just more like a fan thing. So especially if you're like thinking about it from a fan perspective, he notes here, I'm going to blow this up big so I can sure. I'm going to play it too so you can hear real quick. He notes here something about Agora. So
you've never seen a woman before. 5'10" and 133 is kind of small, if I'm going to be honest.
Right. So he says, and there is kind of funny. He's like 5'10" and 133, that she's really lightweight considering how tall she is for women. It's like, yeah, because she is a amalgamation between, bird and human, as you can see by the wings, and birds have hollow bones that make them more lighter weight and aerodynamic. So she actually has a lighter weight structure to her body, which is a part of, her flight streamlining. So again, it's these kind of funny things where it's like, at first it sounds like, oh, okay, like, well, this person doesn't know women or something like that. It's like, no, actually, definitely no women in weight. I thought about what that kind of dynamic buildup would be, in designing the character. That obviously there would be something that would tie into her bird-like features, including having the, lighter bones and stuff like that. That's why she's so much lighter. And the Megatalk audio says true. Yeah. So, is it like the big deal? I thought it was funny. The commentary obviously is funny, but I do think that it's also important to remind people that there is purpose and specific details that tie into what it is that I do here with the writing and with everything in the characters. It's not simplistic. Everything is actually very dynamic in terms of character development, reasons why they have certain names, powers, origin, stories and stuff like that. Very, very specific and thought out, not purely happenstance. So another thing too that I thought was funny was he talks about Kaiser Kim. So I'm going to bring this back here. Okay, hold on.
Dictorate, which is like
yeah, he says dictorate. It's even though it's directorate. So directorate, not dictorate. But that's funny. I'll take dictorate. I guess maybe he had penis on the mind at that point in time. I don't know, but it was a good try. I liked it though. So directorate. But I think it's going to speed to
flying T-Rex general, and then there's just Kim Jong-il. and then they just add Kim Jong-il.
Well, right. So exactly. So Kaiser Kim is a character with Kim Jong-il and a part of his backstory. And that's why you see that, special symbol that I'm not going to say that, for algorithm's sake. Back in the day, I could just talk about it. Now it's like, ugh. But his suit comes from a Nazi, war era. Well, now I just said the word, so I guess that's past the point. Probably be okay. Fingers crossed. But it's a suit that was from that time. So in other words, they're using a suit that they got from Germany back in the day, and they modify it for him. He's actually still alive. It's a part of the story. So yes, is it funny and kind of crazy? Yes, but how's that any different than people who have done different types of historical characters that somehow get resurrected or secretly kept alive, whatever? It's, you know what I mean? It's nothing that's like, I would say, profoundly unique in concept. Like I didn't come up with something that's like totally unique in concept, but it's a fun iteration that hadn't been done before. And that's why I was like, okay, I want to do something that's a little bit more modern, but also ties in some funny ideas for like what I could do with the arc later, specifically with Kaiser Hip. Because, you know, North Korean is not typically the thing, you know, that people go to when they talk about these type of, you know, comic book situations. Usually it's more, I guess you could say, you know, the 1940s Germany. And, you know, sometimes you might get a little bit with China. Like I think Jupiter's Legacy covered the concentration camps in China, right? So, you know, Jupiter's Legacy, I thought was a great, you know, great series for the first two sagas. The third is like, it got kind of bad. But, you know, tying in real world stuff goes, you know, across the board in many different genres, you know, whether it's The Boys, Jupiter's Legacy, tying some stuff with like Watchmen, right? And having Nixon in there and having, you know, the Cold War. Not really something that's unique. I'm not doing something that's like, oh my gosh, it's never done before, but my own twist, my own iteration of interest and kind of intrigue. So that was, I thought, a little fun thing to do there. Then at 10:09, I'm going to find this. So let's see here. He's going to talk about a certain character. And I just want to clarify this just because there's some misconception there too. People might want to know there's a difference.
Sorry, they added new ones since I was here. There's Volintelligence, another Asian woman.
So Volintelligence, that's not the character there. That's Philosophy. So I think because maybe his chat's covering it up, but Philosophy is kind of the name there. It's just below it. Volintelligence is something else that is classified. It's secret for now, because I do keep my website in a way where it's like, sure, you can get some element spoilers there, and I've always thought about that. I'm like, to what extent do I want to have, you know, information that might be a little bit spoiling versus information that, you know, it's just like it's just that balance. Like, you know, how much do you want to put out there and give people the option to look into versus, you know, how much you want to keep secret, leave a mystery unveiling. And I thought I did a good enough balance where it's like, okay, if you really want to, you know, kind of get a sense of the universe, you can go there and deep dive and maybe get a little bit ahead in some of the ideas, but you don't have to. You can just sit there and say, okay, I know there's this character page. I'm not going to read deep into it until the issues come out. And that's kind of where I left it. I don't have like the whole story by any means on there. I don't have all the things that happen. I don't have the universe totality arcs. I keep it in a way where you get some character descriptions, so you can get a sense of it. But, you know, it's something that I think, you know, is worthy for inspiration. And maybe, who knows, maybe I'll take some of it away in the future, but I've always wanted to have enough there that made people see the series as something worth supporting, be like, okay, this has a direction, this has a lot of development and potential, that kind of thing. So, and Mark here says, don't worry, there's always people that, since they don't understand what you do, your intentions, they don't read or research it, they tend to criticize negatively. That's true. And again, I don't personally, I'm not like upset about this or anything like that in terms of the video. I'm obviously somebody who is very knee deep into meme culture and hilarity and humor, and I'm doing a lot of self-aware jokes and hilarity and stuff like that. So it's more just, I actually thought that his video was pretty funny, but I wanted to make sure that, as some people were like confused on this or looking this stuff up, I wanted them to actually know what the proper framing or correct names or different things were, just so that there wasn't too much of a misconception about it, especially too on the overall theme of the series, because in the beginning of this, he states that there's, basically just a bunch of characters who are out there talking about voluntarist principles and stuff like that, which is not true in the comic. Like, so the actual comic, you know, the origin stuff, and then, you know, the covers and stuff like that, eventually are going to get the remake and the remodel, all that good stuff. But it's not a preachy comic. This is a regular, you know, kind of, story comic where you literally have character and development. It's not like just talking about the ideas and this or that. It's actually like an incrementally building story with character development, conflict, people just having different disagreements over things and figuring out, what the right thing to do is, that kind of thing. So it's not something that is like this like preachy thing. And I think part of that confusion again is maybe in some ways my fault for the Futureverse prototypes, because I did in the beginning do a couple of issues that were meant to just be like, oh, here's little like insider teasers that are meant to be funny and humorous. And I probably shouldn't have done that. I mentioned that in that mistakes I made video, that I should have just started on the origins from the beginning and worked on that. And instead of trying to like, get insider stuff to like get people on board and then switch it over. So that was my mistake. But obviously I've been doing the origin story now for like 6 years, and that has its own, major set of stories and comics and whatnot. And we just finished the 6 and are doing the remasters of 1 and 2. So everything's been super successful. So all is good. It's no harm, no foul in the end, but a good learning lesson and something to think about again for your own series as you do whatever it is that you are working on creatively, if you're in that. Oh, and I should note that he also does happen to mention in the process, of course, going through my stuff, he mentions Pho and some of our work. He checks out her channel, and they look at some of our music video stuff, which I actually appreciate. I'm like, you know what? Thank you. I do appreciate you, Shark3Ozero, checking out our music videos and vibing a bit to that. That actually meant a lot to me. It was cool to see, and to see the progress and to show that this is something that's been building and building over years. We've been working this for a long time, of course. And I think that's a good reminder for any creator that you, by and large, are not going to be like a beginner and then all of a sudden you're like amazing, like, Timcast level overnight. You get to that point by constantly improving on yourself, thinking about what you can do better, learning from others and what they do well, taking notes, getting better equipment, and so on and so forth, right? And that's what obviously we've done too over the years. We keep building, getting better, working on things, adjusting things, updating things, and so on and so forth. So, but he did say that, let me see if I can find this here, 1356. Okay. So he laments something. So I'm going to post or show this real quick.
She did change her intro. She dropped the yes please.
So right. So he says that here that she changed the intro and dropped the yes please. Well, that part, the yes please, is actually not dropped. The yes please is still in there, but it's at the end of the video. So when you go to watch any of the latest like philosopher videos, let me see if I can pull this up here real quick. Okay. I'm going to see if I can get a latest video. And then I'll show real
how
quick.
the CIA.
There we go. Okay. So there we go. Okay. So I'll show you here. So at the end of her videos now.
Yes, please.
That's when the yes, please goes. So in the past, it used to be in the beginning and at the end. And now it's just at the end. That's just an evolution of production over time and, coming up with new intro and all other good stuff. So what's also kind of funny too is he managed to cover a little bit of the Libertarian Guys of Asian Wives stuff. So I think that's hilarious. It really boggles my mind, the Libertarian Guys of Asian Wives thing, because it's like that was something that I just did at first is kind of like a comedic joke. Like I was just having fun with it. And like, just because like, okay, yeah, I am like a libertarian, small L guy with an Asian wife. And, I know a couple people like this. So let me go ahead and make, this branding and all this other stuff and make a few joke memes. And then all of a sudden, after I did that, I had a ton of other people like coming in and checking out. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm that too. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, wow, there really are a lot of us. And I was like, well, I guess we'll have to make this a group. So I did. And now there's actually a lot of us Libertarian Guys with Asian wives because it's a big phenomenon. Actually, it's something. And then this somehow got big in Australia. I don't know what led to it, but apparently Australians love Libertarian Guys with Asian wives, or at least, enjoy the content. They think it's hilarious. Whether they think it's cringe funny or not, I don't care. They're checking it out. And I know that there is something there to it because, they are down there close to Southeast Asia. So I think there might be a little bit more, connection from just proximity and geography and maybe traveling and visiting and stuff like that. Maybe that's why there's more of a connection, that cultural influence. But yeah, I mean, just kind of went with it and started to make really insider joke memes and just made people laugh with it. And so now it's just a funny page, but also a real thing. It's real guys with real wives, and it's not like we don't actually have that as something that's like, oh, this is like something that you must do, or like this is some like ethical thing. No, it's like, obviously, be with whoever you want, like as long as it's a consensual, healthy relationship, great. I don't care, whatever. But it is fun to share experiences and talk about different things we have in common. And there is a lot of stuff in common. People are like, oh, what's that? Is it just some fetish? It's like, well, it's a preference for people who, do that. I mean, personally, all three of my exes were not Asian. So, I mean, to me, it's like, this wasn't even a thing. It just happened to be that the person I ended up marrying was Asian. It's like, oh, there's actually quite a few of us that are in this camp of like libertarian thinking. And then also I was like, oh, okay. And then soon enough, we're like, sharing recipes and sharing what we do with relatives and common experiences and all other stuff. So it's cool. It happens. I think it's no different than any other type of, fandom, right? Like, people have fandoms over anything. You like cars, you like a specific sports car, you like, a specific anime, whatever it is. And it's, you're like, oh, well, this is a human being. It's like, yeah, okay. And what like, as if you don't sit there and objectify like big booty Latinas or something. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, everybody has interests in different things that they like, whether it's something, a singular superficial thing, oh, I like chocolate, or, oh, I like big boobs, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Or it's a totality of a package, right? A certain, ideology like libertarianism, or people who play Call of Duty, or whatever it is. And people are always trying to connect and relate, right? A big part of existence is seeking patterns of other people, seeing how people experience things the same way as you do, and having camaraderie over it. So it's just a lot of that same kind of stuff. Like, a lot of it was just like me having fun making jokes, and then the jokes turned to reality, which, hey, you can't blame me for making anime real life. What I mean is that a problem? I don't see what's a problem. It's just literally having fun and making jokes of stuff that people already do enjoy. So, and and I think there's some misconceptions there too. Sometimes, like, oh, what is this? Is this some interracial like thing? It's like, it's libertarian guys, right? We literally have guys in there who are also Asian. It's not like one or the other. We literally have like guys in every background in terms of ethnicity. Black, Hispanic, Asian, white, Jewish, whatever. Like, literally the whole gamut, because it's libertarian guys. It's not guys with light skin from Europe or something. So, it's funny. But at the end of the day, it inspired some things, because people just got more comfortable. I think that some people have been so stuffy about this stuff, like, with all the PC culture and people being triggered by every single thing, like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You can't have this. You can't enjoy this. You're just a fetish. It's like, who gives it? Like, who cares what they think? Like, really? It's like, if you enjoy something, great. And if you happen to find other people who are like, hey, I like that too, great. Are you initiating force against anybody? Are you defrauding anybody? No? Okay, big whoop. And if you don't like it, okay, whatever, move on. But it's finding humor in those things too, that like brings people together, and just realizing that, okay, yeah, like, you're gonna take yourself that seriously, like, oh my gosh, it happens to have an Asian wife. Yeah, and then there's a whole like thing, objectification too, right? Like, oh, that all she is, like, of course not, duh. Like, obviously, it's not just that that they're Asian. Otherwise, there's like tons of other things that I would not want in my life. I'm not going to date some girl. I mean, obviously now I'm married, but I wouldn't date some girl if she was some SJW leftist. I wouldn't date some girl who like hates guns. I wouldn't date some girl who like hates what I do with comic stuff. Like, there's other attributes. It's just that entry. Oh, here's the first superficial level thing that, describes, the coupling. And, past that, I mean, it is pretty, I would say, important though, in terms of like those two terms together, in terms of the total package. Because again, libertarian's a worldview package. So it's not just like, oh, hey, people who have like, long fingernails or something. It's like, this is talking about a lot of ideas. And then on top of that, there's unpacking the Asian cultural thing, which of course there's many different subsets of cultures within Asia, but there are some common motifs and some common experiences across that, despite that. So it makes it interesting. It makes life a lot more fun and rewarding, especially when you can laugh at silly things that you can't help it. You notice patterns, you notice things in existence. That's why people even make funny YouTube videos, right? They're noticing things online. They want to share that with others. They want to, show others these things and relate about how funny or silly or cringe or whatever something is. So, and as Mark here says, booty is cake and boobs is muffins. That's right. You can relate on cake and muffins all day. I mean, I think that's a wonderful, beautiful thing. So yeah, I mean, overall, I would say this video that Shark3Ozero did was actually pretty funny. So I'll give you that. You know, actually, if I want to do something more official, I can give you. But it was definitely a funny video, and I would say to watch it, even though they try to knock stuff that I do here and there throughout the video. I think it's funny enough to entertain, and actually it gives you a little bit of history when I do. I'm like, oh, thanks for saving me some trouble of going through some of my videos from like 12 years ago. I'm like, great. So, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see what, people are seeing doing out there. Although he does, I think, just mostly cover just my smaller voluntarious comic channel, and it does a little bit of fun, but I have other channels too. So it's just like, I'm glad that's the only one that went through. All right. So I will take a look at some of the comments too here. Before I do, let me see what Mark says. It says, people get attracted initially to superficial physical stuff. Falling in love comes into play with knowing the inner stuff. Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, whenever you first see a new girl or a guy or whatever, you're going to look at what's on the surface, right? What are they wearing? How do they look? How do they smell? You're not in their head. You can't read their minds. So your first initial curiosity is always going to be what you see with your eyes and what you hear with your ears and what you smell. So it's just not that weird. Okay. But I do want to see these comments down here, because the comments are always where the cesspool is, right? So let's see some of these. So Golgasor says, the only superhero brave enough to fight age of consent laws with his battle cry of mental maturity should be enough. That's very funny. Well, as I explained in my book, Definitive Guide to Libertarian Voluntarism, which, again, I highly recommend, that tells you everything you need to know in the core foundations of the theory. Consent is not simply based on mental maturity here or physical maturity. You have to have the totality of the circumstances about what makes a young person become an adult. And that's, this is one of those things where it's like, whenever people talk about it, they get uncomfortable because oh my gosh, is it age? Is it, what's the factor? Stuff like that. And it's like, to me, I just think that the most obvious social norm is you have biological maturity. So you have to be past early puberty, right? You have to be able to functionally have your, downstairs equipment, all that stuff, be in working order for biological maturity, which of course is also symbolic of your brain development. And then your actual physicality of showing that you are independent, which is that you are able to provide for yourself, right? Those two things together, I think, typically, or, I would say in most cultural senses, typify what makes someone an adult, right? You're physically mature, past early puberty, and you're able to take care of yourself, right? And that varies by age. I mean, it's true. You can't help that fact that there is not some hard line. And that even goes for people who right now might think, well, what, age needs to be 18. It's like, yeah, well, just because someone's 18, if they are literally mentally handicapped because they have Down syndrome and they can't consent, well, their being 18 doesn't mean they can consent, right? 18 doesn't magically make someone with Down syndrome able to consent. And likewise, someone who has dementia and they're losing, they can't function independently. It doesn't matter that they're 75. They can't consent if they meaningfully can't take care of themselves because they are, decrepit there. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I think age is like a nifty thing that people like to throw around and be like, oh, well, this is, the magic key. And it's like, yeah, you don't even think that. You don't even believe that by your actions. So to me, the more clear reality is that, and those things are much more empirically demonstrable and more self-evident in terms of people, showing that to others and demonstrating their own independence. So, I think to me, it's pretty abundantly clear that kids who are, prepubescent clearly, obviously can't consent. Obviously. I mean, this is not something that is too much of a mystery. If you spend any time around kids, you're like, wow, yeah, they don't have the mental and biological maturity and the independence. It's not hard to figure out. Where everybody gets tripped up on is usually when young people are in their teens, because they're like, oh, well, can teens do things with each other? Is that okay? What happens if you're 15? Now you're 18, and, like there's a girl who's a, high school sophomore or whatever, and she's 15, guy's 18 and he's a high school senior. Oh my gosh, is that, does he go to jail now because he just turned 18 and she's about to turn 16 tomorrow? And you know what I mean? You get into these kinds of debates, and I do like doing that because I like the intellectual, thinking and the process of it. and really like fleshing out why you believe what you believe. But at the end of the day, it's going to always come down to a big mix of social norms and, how people, I guess you could say, wish to uphold those. Because at the end of the day, if you know anything about young kids and in terms of, being teens, right, they might do things that you don't necessarily agree with, right? Like just like someone who's 16 might sneak out at night from their parents' house and go to a party their parents said, oh, you can't go to that. Or they might go and do something with a girl or a guy, when their parents say, hey, it's not a good idea, they go do it anyway, right? Like, oh yeah, every single teenager just perfectly obeys whatever the adults tell them, right? I mean, it's obviously not true. So no matter what, at the end of the day, it's going to be up to people helping young people make wise decisions. And that's really the key, is you want to have young people be able to know, hey, you should not have sex young. You should not be going out and doing this stuff, even if you have peer pressure, this or that, or someone tells you, oh, you're beautiful, and tells you all these whatever things, you want to tell them, hey, save it, because there's serious consequences, both in the risk of STIs and, of course, pregnancy and so on and so forth. I think that, to me, is what really matters most, is helping foster a culture of young people waiting and not, being like, oh yeah, all my hormones, I should just act in them right now because I'm like 15 or 16. I gotta go like, hook up with a girl. It's like, maybe you should think about those consequences and think about the effects, right? There's lots of reasons to wait and to not automatically, give into those urges. So that to me, I think is really the big takeaway there, is that you really need a culture of people educating young people and encouraging young people to really not, have sex too young. So anyway. All right. So Nicholas Saney says, let me guess, the creator of this comic probably claimed that this would be free of politics. How would I claim it be free of politics when the literal title is voluntarist, humanity stand against government, right? Does that make any sense? Right? Free of politics. Title of comic, humanity stand against government. I don't know how they thought that one, considering the fact that it's literally about fighting government. But okay, I guess not reading the title was your thing. Okay. So, all right, I'm going to take a quick pause here for some funny comments here. Vincent says, my favorite comment was the guy who wants in on Lagao to study our memes and posts. Right? Yeah. It's funny because it's like people think in the Lagao group that we're, posted, I don't even know, hentai or something, but like, no, actually it's pretty much guys just sharing their accomplishments and successes and ideas and networking and stuff like that. It's pretty much that. So yeah. Okay. So let's see here. Oh, and what's up, Pasquale? Let's see. Oh, and yeah, same old thing, right? Thank you, voluntary. It's not for you. The state would have never let me marry my 15-year-old cousin. Considering the fact that marrying that young was pretty much legal in most states up till about a few years ago, pretty much everywhere. There was exceptions, even as young as 12. The fact that you would associate that with voluntarist and not actually a huge cultural norm that's literally ingrained in state law is really kind of perturbing, right? It's like, how distant do you have to be from the reality that it's actually the government laws that have largely kept young people being able to do that? And actually, I'd say if we really want to get juicy, let's get juicy. What are other countries where they have age of consent laws? Let's take a look. France. Oh, wow. France literally. Oh, stupid. All right, there we go. I'm going to reject all your cookies. France sets age of consent at 15. Okay. France is a major modern country, first world country. They set age of consent at 15, right? And yet, the first thing that these people think is, oh, voluntarist, age of consent at 15. Why is it that people aren't like, wow, the governments of the world actually are where they're really setting age of consent laws really low? Like, how disconnected from reality you have to be like, oh yeah, my first inclination is libertarians, age of consent, not literally many governments around the world have crazy low age of consents, which I don't, necessarily agree with. I don't think that you can sit there and say and that, 15, now magically you can consent to sex with, an 80-year-old, whatever. I don't agree with that. And yet this is literally the norm in statist laws. It just goes to show you how good the brainwashing is, isn't it? Right? Their first inclination is like, man, is voluntarius French, or is voluntarius from Saudi Arabia? No, okay, right? It's really an effective brainwashing regime that they have. That, that's what the first thing that they think, and not the actual governments that have those real laws of people being able to consent to sex at 13, 14, 15, 16, whatever. So, yeah, hearing the phrase libertarian rapper makes me want to gatekeep hip hop. It's probably written by someone who's like 12 years old. And also because, if you're not familiar with hip hop, you might actually want to check up on that in the 90s, because pretty much all those rappers that really made hip hop what it is in the 90s, of course, the early scratch boards in the 80s and sampling from music from the 70s, came a little before that. But yeah, they were all pretty much libertarians. They literally were like, NWA, F the police. We're going to deal outside the state, F the cops and the government. They were very libertarian. Rap is actually very anti-authoritarian libertarian. But you wouldn't know that if you actually don't know anything about rap. So Neo Burns says, yes, the neo-feudalist, so wholesome, not authoritarian at all. What does voluntarism have to do with feudalism? Right? Like, oh, hey, the government shouldn't put a property tax on you that makes it so you can never own your home outright, and you have to pay them every year or they take away your property. No, that's not feudalism at all. No, it's right. It's like, it's so crazy. It's really something, huh? Like that these people will sit there and actually promote real feudalism, neo-feudalism with the state, and be like, oh, okay, voluntarists, libertarians want to end the perpetual taxation and the inability for you to own your own home outright. Well, that's feudalism, and that's authoritarian. No. And of course, what do they say, right? Oh, well, you just want corporations to buy up all the land. It's like, no. It's and again, how is that any different from the government, right? People say, well, if you want corporations to buy land, I'm like, okay, what difference does that make us compared to the government? If you're going to sit there and complain about, I'm worried about corporations, well, the U.S. government's a big corporation. So why are you okay with being stolen from when it's that corporation? In fact, every single government is a form of a corporation, essentially, an organized body of people acting under a fictitious entity. It's just a legal name. So these people are not anti-authoritarian. They're not anti-corporation. They love corporations, so long as it's their preferred corporation, where they can, vote a little bit more. Nero says, as cringe as it is, and it's not something I would ever read in 1,000 years, I'll give him this. Dude found his passion, is living his best life with someone who shares his passion. That's true. Pity the politics, everything he does is filtered through his complete dumb effery. Well, I don't know what's dumb about trying to have people not be stolen from and not have their stuff taken, every day by the government, and not having their money used to blow up people in the Middle East, and not being put into cages for victimless crimes. I don't see how that's dumb. I guess you enjoy the drug war, you enjoy the wars abroad, you enjoy having inflation by the government, I guess. I don't know. All right. So let me look for something fun. Oh, here's a good one. I like this. So he says, is his superpower to make it so the nap would actually work? Because it would definitely take supernatural abilities. That makes no sense. The nap is a personal ethical code. You adopt it on an individual basis. It doesn't require anybody. In fact, every single person in the world could not believe in it, and you're the only one who does. What difference does it make? Because as an individual, you say, I'm not going to initiate force against you. I'm not going to mess you in your property. I'm just going to live my life while respecting other people's bodies and properties. So it works by default because you just live it. There's nothing to make work. It's one of those funny things. People love to use the abstraction of work. Like, what does work mean to you? Anyway. All right, let's look for another good one. Let's see. Oh, here's another one of them sillies. I like these. I like reading like the silly ones where it's like it's so bad that these takes are so ignorant on what the stuff means. It really takes you back. So my favorite part is when he showed up to the soup kitchen and said, "It's volunteering time," then patiently waited for everyone there to pay the performance fee to see him voluntary all over the place. Oh boy. Yeah. This is one of those misconceptions where it's like everything in life just revolves around paying. And it's just like, that makes no sense. The profit motive is an important motive for people, providing goods and services to others, but it's not the only motive in life. All that matters is consent, voluntary actions. So that's why there's people who do charity. There's people who hang out with friends, right? They don't like, oh, to be friends, you have to pay to hang out with me. It's like, no, you do it because you just want to, or you enjoy it. You have psychological satisfaction. So individuals have self-interest that exists beyond the profit motive. And that's totally accounted for in voluntary practice. So people who have no idea what it means say the darndest things. All right. Let's see what's next. Oh, here. Oh, wait. I can't believe he unironically named a character Stape. What's wrong with Stape? He's a statist ape. Okay, Stape. I mean, it's just kind of like, it's like, I don't know if you've been on DeviantArt, but pretty much many characters names you could possibly come up with have all been taken. Like it's a huge saturated market. So a big advantage I had in making Voluntarius was simply that most people didn't even know or use these kinds of terms because they're so niche. But yeah, it's not exactly easy to just come up with any other kind of name that hasn't already been taken. And since it kind of works to bring those two things together, I thought it was a fun name. So let's see here. Yeah, as Mark here says, they're what, crackheads. Exactly. A whole lot of crackheads. All right, let's see. I'm going to keep trying to find juicy comments here. I like this. Someone says, the fact that I don't hate those songs except the lyrics and messages makes me sad. The production is actually pretty good for the newer ones, at least. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. The music is good. We're not doing anything. We don't do anything with our music that's like low quality, but I don't see what you don't like about the messages. I mean, a lot of our messages are literally about that we don't want the government engaging in mass theft and war and murder. So it just always boggles my mind. It's like, I don't like this message. I'm like, okay, so you love U.S. imperialism and you love people being put in cages for plants, for owning a plant, and you just want people to be taken from so that the government can like do a bunch of deals with weapons contractors? Is that's what you want? Okay, weird. All right. Okay. Anything else good? I see. I love the half good commentary, right? It says, I'll give this guy credit. The art and character designs are actually really good. Thanks. I'll take that. Unfortunately, the names for most of the heroes are just terrible. And I'm sure Voluntarius' power is to voluntarily engage in commerce or something like that. What? That's not his power at all. Like that's literally, this is something you could just Google in 10 seconds. But it's kind of funny to me because it's like, oh, I think that, your character name is terrible as opposed to what? I mean, it's like, what is Captain America? Are you just like, did you just grow up with that so you don't think twice about that? Imagine someone said today, hey, you know what? I'm going to come up with a new character. I'm going to call him Captain America. Captain America. Oh, okay, so he's a captain of what, America? It's, you know what I mean? It's like one of those things where you take the names for granted of the characters that you buy into and that Disney and Marvel have put billions of dollars into promoting to you since you're a child. So you don't even think about it. You don't even, you're so brainwashed. You're so programmed. You don't even think about it twice. Right. I know I have a black dude and he's from the jungles of Africa. I'm going to name him Black Panther. You know what I mean? It's, it's people just take it for granted. They don't think about it. They don't think about these characters. They're just like, oh yeah, Black Panther, Wakanda forever, baby. Let's go. At least Voluntarist has an actual deep philosophical meaning that can be unpacked if you wish. That goes to a whole philosophy about his ethos, about why he's doing what he does. But Black Panther, totally fine. Nothing to see there. Hawkeye. Ooh, a hawk and he's got an eye. Hey, inventive. Wow. Or Green Lantern. Ooh, he has a lantern. It's green. Nobody takes the time to take their ego out of their self and just stare back at it from a 100-foot view and be like, huh, actually, I do accept a lot of kind of just on the face names that aren't even that like deep or thoughtful, So again, not that that's that all said. It doesn't mean that I don't like those characters. I like the characters. I enjoy Green Lantern. I enjoyed, at least I'm not going to watch the second one. The first Black Panther was fun, but I just do that to remind people. That's the reality of what you actually normally accept. You just don't think about it because you've been so programmed for so long. You just goes whoop right over your head. Like, oh yeah, of course, Captain America. All right. Let's see. Anything good? Oh, here's something interesting. It says, dude, you're a real connoisseur when it comes to finding the absolute weirdest content online. I don't think I could have done it even if I tried to feed my algorithm loads and loads of right-wing, libertarian, wacky content. I don't consider myself right-wing. I think if you actually heard my views, you'd be like, oh, he's not right-wing. I consider myself voluntarist, libertarian, but people probably wouldn't think I was right-wing. All right. Also, I can't help but wonder, where does the money come from to keep all the production values, since they both have pretty small channels and presumably also small audiences outside of YouTube? Yeah, this is that funny thing, right? This is that funny thing. So let's talk about a few reasons. How do I do that? How does he do that? Well, one, they've been successfully fundraised over 100% for like all of Origins. So he didn't cover that, of course. He didn't go to, he wasn't like going to Indiegogo and be like, oh, actually, they've raised 100%, over 100% of all their comics. Like, they're fully funded. Yeah. Voluntarist has a long-term fan base. So thanks to everybody who's been a part of that. But yeah, that's kind of how it's done. And then besides, being 100% funded, well, technically over 100% funded, our channels are only small, I guess, respective to certain comparison points, but they're not looking at all of our channels. You know what I mean? If you go to the voluntarist thing, you'd be like, oh, it's like 1,000 subscribers, but that's not my only channel. You know what I mean? I have many channels, and that all this stuff is going to this. I mean, this stream right now is being simultaneously, restreamed to like 8 channels. So that's kind of why I kind of am able to bypass a little bit of the throttling just by doing that. But no, I mean, the Philosopher, her channel on Facebook is like 102,000 followers. YouTube's like 30,000 about. So I don't consider that small. I mean, sure, it's not like 1 million or whatever, but I don't usually consider someone having 100,000 followers small. And my other channels have a lot more views too, or a lot more following and subscribership. So, oh, here's a good one. So this says, Mecha Kim Jong-il is such a kick booty idea. I'm mad this guy came up with it first. And actually, that is a good point. That is a part of the reason why I did the characters. I almost forgot that. I almost forgot it. And so That was naughty of me to forget. But I did put the character sheet together on the website, even though there's a teensy bit of spoiler element to doing that, which I'm, not happy fully with, but I kind of wanted to build it out. It's because I wanted to show, hey, I came with that first. That was a big part of it. So that is another reason why I had a whole slew of characters already laid out and described, because I wanted to show years back, hey, even though I haven't made an issue for it yet, I did come up with these characters. I did have these characters designed, and they hadn't been done before. I did my due diligence. I found out there is a cyborg Karl Marx out there. Like, I looked into all different types of everything you can imagine, DeviantArt, other places. I just poured through, and it's like, okay, I want to make sure that if I'm doing this isn't something that's been done before, at least the name and style. So I try to make sure every character is something that's new, and then I'm like, okay, let me do that. And yeah, it is pretty cool. I agree with the pyrotechnician here. Mecha Kim Jong is hilarious. It's absolutely freaking hilarious. That's why I love it. So, you need a modern, character, not just like Robo, guy with goofy mustache here, right? So, because that's been done a million times. And that's the other thing too, is it's like, I could have a little nod to it, but I want to modernize that thing. So, all right. Here's a funny one, right? So it says, angry retail banker, random civilian, voluntarius. There's an old lady being mugged in an alley by a group of armed men. You must stop them. Voluntarius, I do not consent to intervening in the situation. Which is kind of funny, because it's like, I don't know if you've seen the Dahmer the TV show. It's a series, so I guess you watch it on your TV, but it's on Netflix. It's not really cable. But I'm pretty sure the police are the ones more likely to not intervene in a situation than voluntarists. As you may recall from watching that, the police literally let Dahmer continue to murder people. And we're like, we're not going to investigate this. Yeah, we're good. So it's really one of those funny things, right? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're gonna try to knock on voluntarius, which at least based on how I've written the character, he would help somebody in that situation, but in reality, it's the police who are more likely to do the mugging, and the more likely ones who are going to, when push comes to shove, do nothing. Remember like in the 2020, all those different riots, and the police were like, we're not doing anything. We're gonna let the cities burn down. Yeah, but yeah, voluntarius is not going to help the old lady, but the police, yes, they'll come save you right when it really counts. They're going to be there for you as the city burns, right? No. Reality is a real tough toke for some of these people. They're not really in tune with it. They're in tune with an artificial reality, which is funny because, here I am making a comic book series and it's, fiction with some ties to reality. But these people are literally not in reality. They have no idea what really goes on in terms of actual reality of police and the government and what they actually do, and their obligations, which, police are not legally obligated to any individual. They're not required to help. This has been established law precedent that police have no duty to protect. In fact, one of the most recent cases where that happened was in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting, Parkland. The judge ruled against the family, saying, no, the police there, they had no duty to protect you. Too bad. So sad. Your case is dismissed. Go Google it. Actually, maybe I'll Google it, because, sometimes I say this, I'm like, oh, you want to see? I just love showing people. Police have no duty to protect Parkland. Let's go look this right on up. Judge rules. Wow, there's even on New York Times and police1.com. Oh, look, officers had no duty to protect students. Officers had no duty to protect students in Parkland massacre. Judge rules. Wow. So much for that, right? So much for that. Reality sure does hurt when you check it out and find out, oh, wow, it's the government, the police who actually are the ones who don't have any duty to do anything. Not this fictional superhero that you're projecting onto. Yeah. Oh, I like the marks here. The lazy naming for the characters. Yeah, definitely lazy naming. All right. So there's already a libertarian superhero, and he's the Question from DC. I mean, yeah, barely. It's not really his character development isn't that strong enough to be that. This person thought a touch of reality. Look at this. This says Comicsgate was this thing that seemed big but went out with a whimper. Went out. How is it going out when literally year after year there's more and more creators getting funded like crazy? I mean, Eric July's had just 3.7 million. Oh, but it's going out. Okay, that makes no sense. I don't know what you're talking about. Artsy comic loving conservatives would talk crap about the new heroes and stories that came out in 2012. There was either a lawsuit between YouTubers and comic writers 2017, 2018. I was there, and Shark 2, I guess, and it was nuts. Glad to be out of toxic space. I'm surprised by lack of coverage. Where do you even get that? I mean, all you have to do is go on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and everything you just said is false. It's not gone. It's not out with the web. It's still going. Yeah, see, and this is why I made this video right here. Montesama, Voluntasia, the Voluntarian from Asia, and Volintelligence, the other Asian who's really smart. No, see, that's why I had to make this video. Volintelligence is not the Asian girl. That's philosophy. That's the other one. Now, if you're going to be like, oh, well, that sounds like philosophy, the word with PHI, well, then you might be onto something. But no, it's not the character. But hey, it's a nice thought. It's a nice thought. Someone said something really good. Here's something really good here. Why does everyone have advanced healing? See, these are the kinds of questions that actually drive to the heart of the series. So the advanced healing is something that ties in to the radiation event and the powers. And there is something to that. And there's actually something that ties into how everything works. So that is a good question. And that is actually a part of it. But again, you'll have to see how that develops. This is funny. Careful, if the comic becomes older than 14, the readership will lose interest. Ha ha ha. Yes, I mean, because every single child predator out there was libertarian. There's just none, right? Jeffrey Epstein and all of his political connected cronies and Bill Clinton and everybody, right? They were just libertarians, right? Everybody who is a child predator is just a libertarian. No, there couldn't possibly be politicians in power who are Republicans and Democrats. No way, right? No, that doesn't exist. All those in the Catholic Church, right? All those sex scandals, that they were just libertarians, weren't they? Huh? Couldn't possibly be conservatives or Republicans. They're libertarians because that's it. That's all there is. It really is. It always makes you laugh because it's anybody who goes and actually goes like, let me go look up the information on people who are actually convicted for predation. Let me go look at their information. You'd find that virtually none of them are libertarian. Virtually, in terms of like being either registered libertarian for voting or saying that they themselves have a libertarian ideology. By and large, it's going to be pretty typical. People who are registered Republican, registered Democrat, or some type of weird politic. But that's the overwhelming majority of those situations. But yet somehow, oh, well, you're a libertarian, so you must want to predate on children, which is just, it just goes to show you how when you have a lie and you repeat it enough and you brainwash people enough on the news and in the media, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's it. They're a bunch of child predators. And then they have no thinking skills. So like, I should go maybe check that out. Maybe I should go actually look and see, is that true? Does that really represent reality? But that'd be asking too much from some of these people. So, all right. Oh, here we go. Here's some good stuff. It says, OMG, WTF, he just successfully wrapped up an Indiegogo of $18,000, 88 backers. Is Liberty Comics the furry community of the right? Why are they paying so much for this? Yeah, it's called actually having fans and developing a comic series over time that people are really interested in. Because bear in mind, when I raise money on Indiegogo, it doesn't just end there. I also have ongoing sales with digital and physical copies. So it's, the Indiegogo obviously has people who are really wanting to support it and help make it, come to life. But no, my readership is actually much, much bigger than that. It's in the thousands, actually. So let's see. Here's a good one, right? Ben says, as a man, I've been 135 at 5'9". Don't think it's that ridiculous, right? Yeah, on the weight of Agora. So let's see here. Here's a good one here. Stape, I'll give it to the voluntarist comic. It's significantly better than most conservative art, which isn't a high bar, but still, you could tell it at least has passion put into it, rather than being propaganda pumped out by evil corporate overlords. Vollmer is also a super genius from Brooklyn with hand strength and healing. Good for him. Although that will get an update about where he's from. But yeah, I mean, this is a totally organically produced comic. Like literally, I wrote this and was working on this myself, hustling while working multiple jobs and, kind of building myself up over time, passion project. So, and I made mistakes. I definitely made mistakes. I will be the first to say that I learned from my mistakes in terms of production process, in terms of how to do things better, in terms of lettering, and just want to do it myself now, so. Oh, here's a good one. Right, he says, voluntary vixen. I could fix her, turn her into the mandatory maven. That's pretty funny. But mandatory maven. There you go. That's a good bad guy name. But yeah, it goes to show you that even when they make a joke about that, right? It's like they have to automatically go to something that is itself forceful, right? You making a joke about it, that it's like, oh, wait a second. If you're about having voluntary relationships, then my antithesis of that is something controlling and mandatory, right? So it's by its own virtue, it kind of exposes the thought process, because you can't help but admit in the process that, to be against voluntariness in these concepts means you like coercion. It means you like force. You don't want to use persuasion. You don't want to use, influence through ideas and reason. You just, mandate. We got to use violence. We got to use coercion to get this done. So, really funny. Oh, here's one. ANCAPs are even bigger LARPers than tankies. No, tankies are most certainly the biggest LARPers, because tankies are actually advocating for violent force and coercive force to the state, which means that, they're, I mean, this is just a fact from what I've seen. I'm sure there's some tankies out there that are more, I don't know, physically fit, but usually tankies just look really emaciated, and they got a bunch of, nose rings and dyed hair, and they're weak. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to use all this force. I'm going to be a tanky, like a, Stalinist, Leninist, whatever. And, that to me, that's fake flexing. And caps are just literally like, yeah, we just leave us alone, please. Thanks. We just want to do business. We want to trade with Bitcoin. We like shooting guns. And yeah, we want to just keep what we own. There's no flexing, element there in terms of trying to show off that you control or have power over others. It's in the ideology itself. It's literally about being left alone and being free to pursue your own interests, as long as you're not initiating force against others, defrauding others, that kind of thing. So, here's a good one. Libertarianism has to be one of the most baby-brained ideologies out there. These people whine about having to pay for social services, and yet I guarantee that if they had the version of their ideal world that is based on some form of reality, they would be the first to complain that there's no system in place to protect their property when the have-nots show up and take it from them. What are you talking about? The have-nots take it? How it really boggles my mind, because you're essentially saying that in a world where people are free to choose and they have their own resources, but there's no possible way that libertarians would A, defend themselves with their own armaments, B, have some type of private defense association, whether it's as small as a group of people doing community watch, to having a private defense company, to insurance agencies, wanting to have defense to protect assets. It's this very simplistic thinking, almost like a video game, where you just think, oh, okay, yeah, you have all these capacities and all these thoughts and all these abilities and all these resources, but the second that you don't have the social service, oh my God, nobody can ever think again. Nobody can ever come up with anything again. Nobody does anything. There's nothing else I could do. Woo. That's the baby thinking that you can't possibly imagine people coming together and associating to build anything or to do anything or to protect each other, whether it's, again, as simple as a community watch up to having private defense agencies that you pay for, which exist already. I mean, you ever been to a mall where they have security or a bank where they have an armed guard? This exists. It's not like, it's not like, oh yeah, there's cops and they follow you around. And if anybody tries to steal from you, the cop will be like, no, you can't steal from this person. Because murder doesn't exist with the government now, right? That's the most simplistic thing you could possibly have, is thinking that the government magically protects everybody perfectly, uniformly, and that there's no such thing as have-nots taking, despite the fact that the government literally has popularity contests where people vote to take from others using government force. So it seems like the have-nots actually do have, some of that going for them, but they just rely on the collected pool of the force of the state and the belief in authority to legitimize the mass theft. That's the only difference. So here we go. Here's some real NGL. Leviathan looks kind of cool. That's right. Leviathan does look cool. And I am not ashamed of that in terms of the character, because he is a demoniac character, because I am making these lines clear in terms of the universe. It is a fact that I want there to be a very clear line between who is considered the heroes and protagonists and who is considered evil. It doesn't mean that there aren't in between characters where it's like they question things and they push things and they push back on each other. I want philosophical debate and struggles with things, but I do also want an overarching theme. Okay, that these are the main good and bad guys, that kind of thing. And I just don't see why not, make that look cool in the process. That's why I did Leviathan. I think it looks sick, man. So, yeah. Wait, what is this? So it said, wait, these are the ANCAP My Grind people. I keep hearing the song pop in Shape the Box videos and was always curious at the source. Now I got to look at what Shape the Box is. What's Shape the Box? I don't know what Shape the Box is. Anybody here know what Shape the Box is? I don't know what that is. Now I got to look it up, because I guess someone's playing it. I didn't know. Someone thinks you're funny. Oh, why is it voluntarist and not voluntarian? Ha ha ha. See, I made a joke about white people. Yeah, it's called voluntarist because the root word is voluntary, and then ist is an ideology. So it's just grammatically correct. It's literally a believer in voluntary action. That's why. And I don't know if you've seen the characters, but they're not all necessarily light-skinned. So it has nothing to do with any type of light-skinned superiority. There's nothing, this comic series has literally nothing to do with that. Here's a real good question. Why is the V an upside down A? So the V is an upside down A because it's actually a part of the symbolic representation for all. It's actually on the website. You can see this for yourself underneath the voluntarist symbol. It says the voluntarist symbol stems from logic and philosophy. It is a symbol in mathematical logic, which means for all, for any, for each. The symbol's connection to this logical term is that voluntarism is a philosophy which seeks consistency, that all people should have equal rights and equal freedom stemming from self-ownership, not subject to the whims of authoritarian regimes. So, great question, Chris. There's a meaning behind it. Yes. The whole series, I do not just willy-nilly pick things. Everything has, to some degree, a tie and a meaning and some backstory and relationship. I'm very intentional with what I do. And it's something that I think I've always wanted in comics myself, but that part's definitely projecting my own wishes into there, is that I've always wanted my series to be something that when you read it, it makes you wonder what's real and what's fake in terms of, the story and the backdrop. And it makes you go and look up things. I don't want a comic book series where it's just like, oh, I punch you. Oh, you punch me. Oh, we punch each other. Oh, look. Oh, you dead now. Like, I want there to be intellectual meat that when you're reading it, it's inspiring. It makes you really think about the nature of existence and philosophy, what it means to be free, and makes you curious about the world. Because I don't think that, for me at least, writing that is just superficial is satisfying. I want something that gives you action, excitement, of course, the superficiality that draws you in and the story, but also to have some intellectual meat there that goes, oh, okay, that makes me think about this in a new light. Because I think that really is what grows your mind. I want you to have an edified mind, by reading it. So it's here's something. See, now this might be true. It says voluntary kid died from eating Halloween candy laced with communism. Truly one of all the tragedies of all times. I think he meant to say one of the greatest tragedies. Right. But yeah, even that's funny, right? Like the government doesn't go around and monitor all people giving out Halloween candy. It's not like, Halloween candy must be given out from the central government post and all candy must be inspected for poison. Yet pretty much everybody goes out and gets candy and virtually nobody dies, right? I'm sure there's someone somewhere who got poisoned or something like that, which is sad and tragic and horrible. But yet millions upon millions upon millions of iterations of people do so safely, fine, and voluntarily. People voluntarily put out candy, and it's, of course the candy may not be healthy for you. I mean, that's a whole separate thing. But in terms of it's not poison, it's not, something that's meant to kill you right away. People do this voluntarily, and they voluntarily associate to give out snacks and celebrate time together and have fun. Wow. Who would have known? It says, will ISOM cross over with them? Ooh, there's a good question. No, ISOM will probably not cross over. I don't know. I mean, Eric July knows my stuff. I know his stuff, obviously. I would doubt it would be something that's like just like when Marvel and DC did the Amalgam comics, maybe, you do something like, 40 years later, 50 years later or something, but it's going to be way later. Okay. Wait, what? So it said, I Did Not Consent was written directly on Kendrick Lamar's Humble. Not in the slightest. I'm very familiar with that song. No, I Did Not Consent. I was made specifically by a French musical artist. It is completely unique from that song. My gosh. See, there you go. Oh, no underager. Yeah, it's the same old thing, and it's one of those things where, again, when people repeat the lie enough, they just believe it. They don't think about it, like, oh yeah, despite the fact that all the young consent laws are in countries, and the governments mandate them. They're like, oh, this is the law, like in France or Saudi Arabia or wherever. Oh, okay, Oh, good to see you too, DCC, and thanks again for those awesome drawings. A voluntarist. Okay. Oh yeah, philosopher here. Put a comment there. He says the ANCAP grind. Okay, maybe I'll play this real quick. In the video he says the ANCAP my grind part. Let me see here.
On my mind, ANCAP my grind. Value on my mind.
See, yeah, it's catchy. ANCAP my grind is catchy. I mean, even he's like, yeah, ANCAP my grind. Value on my. Also, that song was really big in Brazil, so I can tell you that. So Brazil's got a huge liberty community. I love the Brazilians. They're freaking awesome. I honestly, if I could, I'd be like, all right, can we like trade you? I want to trade all the ANCAPs in Brazil, which is like hundreds of thousands, and bring them to America, and we'll give you like, and to Brazil like a couple 100,000 of the Californians who love socialism. That'd be great. If only. I'm pretty sure most of the Brazilians would take that in a heartbeat too, especially with their recent, election. It's not looking good for them. Any other stuff? No. Okay. So I was looking for just anything kind of funny that you can dissect, but a lot of it's just, label, shame, and nonsense, all that stuff. So in any case, I think that kind of wraps up, everything here. It was a lot of fun. Shark3Ozero. I do want to say I appreciate your review, even though you call it laughably bad with the comic. It's all good. I'm very good humored about everything when it comes to my stuff, because I'm already used to being, one of the most reviled people, because obviously I get hate from mainstream, Republicans, Democrats. I'm getting hate from commies, socialists, libertarians too. As I say, it's everybody gives you hate. So to me, that's why, like, so you're like, how do you not have self-shame? I'm like, because I don't care. I don't care what other people think in terms of, like, they're like, oh, this is cringe or this is shame, whatever. I just do whatever it is that I enjoy, and where there's room for improvement, I just keep going, right? Just like anything else that you want to get better on in life. Even if other people don't like it, it's like, okay, well, do you enjoy it? Is it hurting anybody? No. Okay, well, great. Have fun with it. And just keep getting better at what you do. And that's I'd say, the main thing I give anybody admonishment is that it's up to you to develop your skills. And if you're passionate about something, it doesn't get built in a day. It takes years of hard work and learning from mistakes, and then thinking about what you can do better. And eventually, you grind at something 10, 20, 30 years for most people, then you have fruition. And that includes, pretty much anything and anybody. That there are some people that have overnight successes. It does happen, but the most successes are the product of decades of hard work. Even someone like, Eric July and his stuff. You go back and look at his channel, Young Rip of 59, go back to like some of his first videos, right? He was grinding. He was doing just simple videos in his freaking bedroom with terrible lighting and, not a crazy, amazing mic, but he was passionate. He's like, I'm going to keep doing my music. I'm going to keep getting better. And he did. And then he started doing, music and stuff like that. And then he went to backwards. And then he's like, I want to get into comics. And he started grinding on that day after day, doing reviews. Right. And then eventually he got to the point where he could finally make his own comic book series. And then people say, oh, wow, amazing. You raised millions of dollars. But that doesn't, really speak to all the hard work that was put in over years leading up to that point. You know what I mean? There's a huge road that led up to that. Just like there's a huge road for voluntarist. I didn't go and be like, oh yeah, I raised, whatever, 18.7, I think, K on that campaign to do both the latest issue and the remasters. Years of work. I've been working on this for, as they noted, over 10 years. So you have to keep working hard at whatever it is that you love, and to be able to roll the punches, especially when people will say, oh, you're just cringe. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to keep going. Too bad. So, all right. Take care, everybody. You actually will probably see me doing some videos and stuff, because we're doing the next music video shoot this upcoming weekend. So it's going to be in New York, and that's going to be crazy. So you might see some videos, little sneak peeks coming up with that. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I just can't wait for the video to be done, because it's going to be one of the best ones I think that you've ever seen. So, real quick, DC says, is your remaster of the Voluntarist going to be on Indigo, or has it closed? So the remaster of Voluntarist, that campaign closed. That was the Origin 6 campaign plus remaster. So we did the 6th issue, which is the final issue in the Origins arc, and then we're remastering 1 and 2 to bring them into alignment with the rest of the series. And then the next Indiegogo, which, fingers crossed, there's an Armageddon in 2023, that will start off the next issue for the next arc, which is Suit Saga. So then we'll be just doing back to, single issues, because then the Origins arc will be complete and will be put into a trade paperback form, which will be really thick. I mean, it's going to be something in the order of 180 maybe-ish pages, maybe 190. Because the remasters that we're doing is also an expansion. So the first issue is getting basically doubled in this remaster. And then the second issue is getting like an extra half of what it is, because I just had to expand it enough to do the lettering right and, give more space to everything. So it's going to be a big book. So it's going to be a honker, but it'll be super cool. And then to kick off the Suit Saga after. So, all right. Talk to y'all later. Have fun.
Zero State with Jack Lloyd.